when you write a patent, you need to think that is something so original that no one is going to have the same idea for the next at least 10 years.
Right.
Not only that it wasn't done, you need to look at the what is existing and imagine that they're not going to come with your idea within the next 5, 7, 10 years.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
You've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Hi, Camila. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ken. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm having a great day. Thank you for joining us today. I know you're a busy woman, and we very much appreciate your time. Can you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and where you come from?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure being here with you. And a little bit about myself. Well, you will hear a lot about immigrant stories today. I am an immigrant from Brazil, and my entrepreneur journey started there. But I've also lived in Europe for almost a decade. So kind of being around a lot. And that allowed me since the start of my career as an entrepreneur to have an international network and work with the projects that were in different countries. And that was kind of a motivation for me to also go live in other countries because I was already working internationally. Right. Start.
Okay. So did you go from Brazil to Europe and then to the US, or is that or was there a lot of confusion in the middle of that?
Yeah, Europe was like a studies season, let's call it this way. I did college there. I did my studies in design in France. And then I got homesick. I went back to Brazil. And in Brazil, being an artist wasn't so easy. So I had this opportunity when I was in my early 20s to open a business and become an executive producer. I started working in the entertainment industry, and I did that for about 12 years. Wow. And then one business led to another. I had a nonprofit organization as well. I had a few things going on in Brazil, but at some point I felt like I wasn't having a global penetration, let's call it this way. I was working with international projects, but my company, I felt like it couldn't grow from where I was.
Okay.
And I came here to the US in 2013 just for tourism, but I got lots of opportunities for my company in Brazil. So I was here for a few weeks and I got lots of clients. I went back to Brazil. I started working only for Americans. And so 2 years later, I said, well, this is my destiny. So
wonderful.
California is being almost a decade now.
Okay. And immediate family, kids, husband, wife, anything like that?
Yeah, I came here and ended up marrying another immigrant. We have a child born in the U.S.
Wonderful.
And starting a family here.
So you started your family here in the U.S.
Yes.
As a business owner. So you were in Brazil, you've got a company, you take a vacation to the U.S., and on that vacation you land clients.
Yeah, I didn't take any vacation for 5 years.
Okay. Doesn't sound like you took a vacation then either, Camila.
No. I used to work like 100 hours per week, and perhaps we can talk about that today. Since I started being an entrepreneur very early, I started working too much very early.
Right.
Many years. In 2008, I know there was a crisis here. I hosted a couple of Americans back in Rio, and they were kind of running away from the crisis. They flew for a few weeks. And then 5 years later, they kept inviting me, to come visit them
Right.
In the Bay Area, and I was always busy. I could never. And then at some point I said, well, I'm not working to leave. I'm leaving to work. So I decided, no, I'm gonna take a couple of months. This couple of months became 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Because of all of these opportunities. I had even a client that wanted to file a visa sponsorship for me, but I ended up a couple of years later, when I came here, I ended up filing for a self-sponsored visa. So
Okay.
I came to the US with my whole career, all of the plans that I had for a global takeover. And then I got it. That's how I became an immigrant. Actually, the U.S. government thought that what I had to offer was unique, was not being offered over
Right.
here. And here I am.
Fantastic. So, I mean, that's the American dream, right? You come over here, you visit, you're like, hey, I'd like to start a business, apply for your visa, get it. Was that I'm sure there's folks out there, and we're primarily a United States-based show, but people watch from all over the world, and that process has to be. I know a couple people that are here on work visas, school visas, different kinds of visas that are in the States, and a bunch that have gotten citizenship. And it doesn't seem to me like any one of them has been like just straightforward and easy process. How challenging was that process for you?
It was challenging, and I can summarize a little bit in case you have any listeners and viewers that are interested in this journey. I know everyone thinks of the U.S. as the best place to open a business and become an immigrant, but obviously we live in a superpopulated planet.
Yes.
One country cannot be the place where all of the entrepreneurs in the world, start a business. And especially nowadays, there's so much we can do from the internet. But in my case, I was looking for expanding globally, and especially in terms of technology. I already had in mind that I would file for a patent, and especially when you're working with innovation, you cannot thrive in any country. There are actually not even 10 countries in the world. You can be an inventor and build something and grow a business.
Right.
So in my case, that was one of the reasons. So if you're an entrepreneur and you want to become an immigrant, you must know that usually there are two pathways. One is that your business is thriving enough that you can offer to a country that you're going to bring prosperity to this country through your brand. And second, you have some very special abilities that lots of companies within that country are looking for. Right. In my case, I was working already with B2B, so I could claim that I have special skills. But since I was a company, it didn't make sense that I would apply for a work visa. So I wouldn't recommend entrepreneurs to go through that pathway, especially because it's where the line is the longest. There's more competition.
The work visa.
A lot of people. Yeah. The work visa is very difficult, and nowadays, especially immigrants from Asia, they tend to have many more spaces than people from Latin America, like I came. Whereas when you're an entrepreneur, the U.S. is a country that recognizes certain industries in which there is not enough competition between Americans and immigrants, and also industries in which the U.S. is a global leader. So it is in the interest of this nation to keep being a leader. And if the national population is not available, willing, or capable to maintain this leadership, then the country is open for talent from abroad. And that was my kind of my entry door, because I worked
Okay.
with something that was kind of starting to be valued almost 10 years ago, which was social networking.
Right. So today you're the founder of Rizhoma. Am I saying that correctly? But it's more than social media today, right? It's social media, back office, CRM. You do a whole lot of things today. Was that always the goal, or did you really start with social media and then add on those other services?
Actually, since the start, I was into social networks, and not social networks as we know today. We tend to confuse social media and social networks.
Okay.
Social networks is simply when we gather as a community and do things together, basically.
Okay.
And it's been there since ever. Syndicate is a social network. Chamber of Commerce is a social network. Trade agreements form social networks.
Right.
So we have in the political, economic, industrial level several social networks. What technology transformed is it empowered the possibility for social networks to start at distance. So before, we had to go to events and then meet people, become friends with them, go for a drink, for a dinner, think about what we could do together.
Right.
And we would start negotiating, scoping the project. It was very slow and very costly, because most times if you wanted to have a trade with someone in another continent, you have to cross agendas and lots of logistics. Nowadays, you can, with a one sentence automated message, to offer something to someone you never met before. And if your one sentence is interesting enough, the person will click on a button and you may get a new client, a new partner, an investor, whatever. So that's the main difference.
That subject line's important. That one sentence is a game changer in so many ways. Yeah. I could have a whole conversation on just subject lines on an email or a cover letter, but wonderful. So what all other services does Rizhoma do today?
Yeah, so since our expertise is actually cooperative networking, we mainly get demand from, well, in the past, mainly from marketing, because people were starting to get into this social media thing, and they wanted to, especially small business owners, they wanted to understand how could they get into this game without spending a fortune. And it changed all the time. So for a few years, I was like kind of directing small businesses in this direction. And then what we're seeing over the last years is especially a demand in recruiting, in HR in general, because there's a lot of automation going on, and that opens for two challenges. One is, how do you hire technical talents that is going to build an automation that is going to be more profitable? Because the wrong type of automation can break a business instead of grow it. And second, how do you replace the current workforce that you have for another scope that assimilates technology better, especially artificial intelligence right now. So people that you would have in your company working for 5 years, 10 years, that were not subject to use certain apps, suddenly need to use them and perform accordingly. So how do you reorganize your workforce in a way that is good? And then in between marketing and HR, we see project and program management in general, because also if you start operating your service with more technology, that means that your customer base will also have to go through this process of digital transformation and be okay speaking with the bot instead of going over some form or some other type of FAQ. So those are the main three types of service that we get demand. And the fourth one, I would say, is more sporadic and relates more with the market that I call investing market.
Okay.
It could be either public agencies that want to contract some type of specific talent or want are leading some new policy that is going to change some industry, and then they need kind of a one operation that is going to make certain players in the market aware of something and meet with each other and make decisions together. So there's a lot of events and specific projects for optimization of public office technologies.
Okay.
And the second one is startup investor relations. So it's something that I have been doing, especially over the last 5 years since I was living in Silicon Valley. I recently relocated to Silicon Beach, to South California. There's a lot of new startups being born every day, and a lot of people that are starting to invest in new businesses, and they need to identify who should they spend energy with in terms of new customers, in terms of partnerships, understand who is a competitor, who is not, and how to communicate with them. So in summary, what we do is communication plans, communication campaigns with the use of technology.
Wonderful. Okay. And so you immigrant to the United States, English is a second language. You're knocking it out of the park, by the way. Great job.
It's my worst language. I speak 4 languages.
4 languages.
The last one.
Okay. Well, congratulations, because you're doing a fantastic job with English. But now you're living in the States and you decide you're going to file for a patent. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about what the patent is and where you're at in that currently in that process?
Yeah. I like to say about my visa that it only took 800 pages because to convince the US government that they needed what I had to offer. And the patent only took 20 years. So I know nowadays a lot of people like to think that, let's just brainstorm over, I don't know, some afternoon and then come up with a new Facebook. That wasn't my journey at all. Since I was a little girl, there were things in the world that I saw that I thought, well, things could be different. We could all be working together in a way that is easier without all of this jungle of competition. And then throughout my career, I noticed that everyone was focused on winning over each other, but everyone cannot be the winner, right? So how can we make an economy that is good for everyone and everyone can find their spaces? So I adopted this habit of doing market research and understanding statistics and trying to have a panoramic view of all industries, especially the ones I was working with. And at some point a few years ago, I started researching all main technologies, especially in cloud computing, because everyone is turning to the cloud. And I was trying to find what the vision that I have, if anyone was doing that. And I did that for many years, and I was able to identify why they were not doing it.
Okay.
What were the things that they were missing? and I started to scope my consulting, with those solutions. But at some point, I simply realized, well, this is a global problem. That's not something that one company, especially my small business, is gonna, solve in a lifetime. So that's when I made the decision that it had to be a technology, and it had to be a technology that would be inclusive, that would change the game, not only for my business and my customers, but also their social network. So it's like a social network of social networks.
Right.
That's kind of what the patent became. Because at some point you need to see that the little thing that no one is doing, and that the input that you can give, but in a way that everyone is gonna win.
Right. Okay, so your patent wraps around a social network for social networks.
Yeah,
Is the
it's
layman's term.
it's a platform for B2B trade,
Okay.
but that doesn't have a monetization system like most social networks or B2B technologies today.
Wonderful.
So it's less costly for all parties, and at the same time, it tracks data that is not being tracked today in terms of what a B2B relationship has. Data that not even the World Trade data database has.
Right. Okay. And is this patent now, you have it completed at this point?
It's in the process. It's being analyzed. It's in the,
So it's
it's in
patent
the
pending.
process. But the nice thing is that while I was writing the patent, so it's expensive to write a patent, and great chances are it's not going to be approved. Most patents are not approved. So I researched the patents that have been filed already in B2B, and I noticed that in this area, especially in cloud AI, most of the patents are filed by groups of 7 to 12 inventors. So I was filing solo for a patent in an area that requires like groups of experts, and very, very few female. I analyzed like 8,000 patents. I dove into 300 of them, the drawings and everything, to make sure that I wasn't, doing something that is being done already and I don't know about it.
You're gonna make a big investment, right? You want to make sure that, or at least have a reasonable expectation that
that
investment's gonna come, that's gonna bear fruit.
When you write a patent, you need to think that is something so original that no one is going to have the same idea for the next at least 10 years.
Right.
Not only that it wasn't done, you need to look at what is existing and imagine that they're not going to come with your idea within the next 5, 7, 10 years. So that's what I've done. And for my surprise, what I discovered is that very few female entrepreneurs in this area. So that gave me the final motivation. I said, no, I gotta do this.
Awesome.
Maybe no one is coming with this idea because also they're not experiencing things the way that I've experienced throughout my career as an immigrant or working internationally.
Wonderful. Okay, so did you have Rizhoma when you were before you moved to the States, or is that the company you founded once you got here?
So I have a different company in Brazil since 2009 under the same brand. And the plan in the future, I don't know how many years from now, is to build a holding, just like is done in the movie industry, like Amazon does, for example, with different revenue streams. So what the company in Brazil does is not the same type of service that the one here does.
Okay.
The brand value, the brand philosophy, all of that is kind of the same. So Rizhoma is a philosophical concept that means that all parts of an organism have the same power and the same influence. So that's the idea of the brand.
just like any good recipe, if you leave out one little bitty piece, it ends up being horrible, right? So
Yeah, and it comes from
you think
biology.
the small one isn't that important, but it can be game changing in
Exactly.
any kind of thing, right? So
So
awesome,
if
I love that.
from biologists of those plants, like the fern, for example, if you take one leaf of fern and you put it on the ground, it becomes a whole new plant.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. And that's what the name Rizhoma means?
Yes.
Wonderful. I love that. That's a really cool name because I get aggravated with the current landscape of marketers marketing to small and medium-sized businesses because they're all, or not all, but I see a very common theme of buy this one product and it'll change your entire business. And that's just simply not the case, right? There's not a silver bullet. There's a whole arsenal of things that you need to run a business. And, the one funnel or the one tactic or the chat bot or any of those one things by themselves aren't really going to change. Might be the missing ingredient for your business, but probably not. There's probably multiple things missing if you're struggling in your business.
Yeah, I also have a little bit of a prejudice with this trend today. So I feel like, and it's not only marketing.
I'm more than prejudiced. I'm downright ticked off about it. I don't like it at all, and I see small business owners throwing money away, and then upset because they didn't work, and then the vendor saying, "Well, you used my software wrong." Right?
Yeah,
it's just I don't like it at all.
Everyone is trying to survive, right?
Yeah.
But I see this in HR as well. So I blame it. Now, let me talk as a scientist. I blame it on an overrating of psychology. So for some reason, over the past years, marketing became all about psychology. And we think that there is this, I don't know, if you watch my 1 hour webinar, I'm going to transform your past and your traumas, and you're going to become Bill Gates. And people forget that Bill Gates has a story, and even people that came out of nothing and became, I don't know, something huge, they have a story that justifies that time builds success. And it really changes a lot depending on where you live, who you are, unfortunately. So
who you have access to.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I mean, if Steve Jobs never meets Wozniak, it's a whole different story.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
His team is what made him. So
any entrepreneur and any success in the US, when people come to me, oh, but look at this guy, he's a college dropout. I always start saying, he's a white American male. He was born in the richest country in the world. Trace is someone that was born in another continent, far south.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not, I don't think, obviously there's the outliners, the people that are just born to rich families, right? But, that to become a successful business person for anybody is going to be challenging. And there's some people that have, they start a couple steps ahead. Anybody that's born in America today is born with the privilege of being born in an economic superpower, right? It's just the way it is. If you're born on the coast, if you happen to be Southern California, if that's where you live, then you have access to a lot of people that you don't have access to if you live in the Midwest, right?
Especially the time. So what I'm pointing out here is not a privilege by itself, because I'm mixed. I come from a country that is not as rich as the US, but it's especially the time. If I were to come here 20 years before I did, my life would be very different. If I had done college here instead of in another place, and I would never be a college dropout, because I'm a woman, I'm a Latina woman. If I didn't do college, I would have not have any of the opportunities I had in my life. So you can't just say, oh, I'm a college dropout, I build $100 million and expect that someone like me, for example, if I do the same, it's going to happen the same way. So it takes more time. Anyone can succeed. I do believe in that, but it takes more time. It takes, for a woman, for example, it takes between 300 and 700 times more effort than for men. Statistically, it's just a
Right.
statistics. If you see the statistic, how many women get there, because more women are trying to succeed as entrepreneurs than men. Exactly,
Right.
because when it comes to being an employee, to working for a company, they find less opportunity. So they do try to become entrepreneurs. It's just that the tools that are out there are not made for them. So if we put everything into psychology, and especially the field of psychology tries to label people as if we were born with the standard behaviors, it becomes very difficult for everyone to assimilate. But I do believe in systems. I do believe that all the people that succeed, they tend to do the same things right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you follow those who succeed, you tend to find tips and pathways that can work. It's just that for another person, it may take much longer and much
Right.
more effort.
But some of the basic fundamentals of success, overcoming adversity, being having a lot of tenacity, not giving up, keep moving when it's the darkest. All of those things, I think, are common across entrepreneurs. I think, I am a college dropout as well. I'm sure that some people would look at me and say I'm successful, and some people, I don't think that I'm not nearly where I want to be in my career yet. And some people probably think it's easy, but I'm a 16-hour-a-day guy, right? I'm working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day before I get home, and then I got another 4 or 5 hours at 8, between 8 and midnight when I get home that I'm still, me and my wife own a business together, and we have meetings about that business because she works there every day and I work at a different job. So I think it's across the board. The number one thing for me is looking at a challenge and saying, I'm willing to accept that challenge and overcome it. And I don't care how long it takes is the one defining factor between, people that are willing to be entrepreneurs and people that are just like, nope, I just want to have a regular job and I don't want to deal with those challenges, because some of them are, you're sitting here telling me about years. It took you 20 years to come up with to solidify some of your dreams, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people would have quit after one.
And I mean, this is my first patent, but from this one, I can see many others I can write in the future. Even the attorney who helped me scope finish the application, he had a team of 4 attorneys, and we had back and forth conversations for a few weeks so they could understand what I was talking about. Although they filed thousands of patents in this area, they're like, we don't understand what it is. It took them several days, but after they understood, now we see this is the seed from many others, because this is B2B trade from a different perspective in technological terms. So the things that are big, they don't grow out of a big bang explosion. They have a whole history that justifies that. But the one thing in common, I would say, is the way we deal with failure. And that, I believe, it doesn't matter how privileged you are or not, you got to be able to deal with failure in order to succeed. I don't see anyone that succeeds and cannot bear failure.
Well, and defining failure and I hate the word failure because it seems so final, right? Like failing seems like it's the last thing that you did. Yeah. And to me, the only way that you can fail is like to want to keep going, but stop doing it because it's just too hard. That to me is the only failure. Like, not getting there on time, having some bumps in the road, taking a break, stepping away and going back, or even going, you know what, this isn't for me anymore. I've realized that I don't like this anymore. It's not fun for me anymore. I'm going to go do something different. That's okay. But wanting it still and giving up because it got too hard, to me, that's the only real failure that you can have.
Yeah, it's something that I coached small businesses, for example.
Right.
When we see the definition of the word failure, or any synonym of failure, we always take it as an opposite of the definition of success and any synonym of success.
Right.
Except that success and most of the synonyms were created at a time in history that was very different from today. So what people call success today and what people call failure doesn't have to be anymore about, for example, competition. You winning over, why do you, in order to be a leader, do you have to win over the rest of the market? Not necessarily.
Right.
If you take Amazon or Google, in terms of a cloud computing, they are providers of everyone else in the market, along with IBM and so on. Netflix and Amazon, they compete with some things, but Netflix is the major Amazon client in terms of cloud. So there are many types of relationships, social networking forms that we can take today in order to find success that request less energy. And if we partner with others, if we don't see our peers as competitors, if we don't see our clients as a gold mine, if we see them as part of what we're doing, then this notion of success becomes much more achievable, much less stressful. And that's what we're talking about.
Right. Absolutely. I think we have to redefine failure in business across the board. And it's, they were taking like the equivalent of stubbing our toe and saying that I failed. In business, every single day you're going to want to accomplish something that you don't quite get to, right? But at least we're in the race. We're in there every single day and we're running the race. And that to me is what I love so much, is that every day I get to come in and try as hard as I possibly can. And some days I'm successful at what I want to do, but most days I fall a little bit short, and that's okay. We're going to get up tomorrow and try it again, right? So, awesome. If somebody wanted to work with you, who's your ideal client today?
My ideal client is a company that is looking for changing the way they operate, have a performance that is optimized, especially in terms of human relations. So they're trying to use technology in a better way that does not replace humans, but empower human work. And especially human interactions with either customers or internally within their team.
Okay.
What I see that the industries that I see that are going in this path are the industries that offer service. So okay. I usually work for companies that offer service in some form, even if it's a technology company that has some product. This product is offered as a service.
Okay. Wonderful. And is there a company that's too small, like 2 and 3 people?
Yeah, I am a small business, so I don't have lots of large companies I work for. I did work for government, for ministries,
right.
for state office. But in terms of a private sector, I'm usually within the range of companies that make at least 100,000 a year to up to a few dozens of millions a year. So medium size. Because we got a phrase also that 0.1% of companies in the world are large.
0.1 are the large companies. And what's the definition of a large company? Is that the Fortune 1000, Fortune 500?
Globally is the number of employees. So very few companies in the world have lots of employees.
Right.
And in terms of revenue, it really changed from a country to another. the UN tends to define what is a large company in a way that almost no one is. But even economic organizations like the World Economic Forum, they have their own definitions as well. So 0.1% large, 1% medium, and basically almost 99%
small.
Are small.
Right.
So
and small is like under 100 employees, right?
Then there's another definition that says that a small business is not a startup, so it doesn't scale. It stays within some range of revenue and number of employees throughout the.
Okay, so all your Main Street businesses that aren't franchises, so mom and pop shops, I hate calling them mom and pop shops. I don't even like the phrase small business because, we've got my wife and I run a small business. It's a $500,000 business, right? It's a good little gym that we run. It's profitable. It pays a lot of people. It's got lots of happy clients. It's not small in anybody's mind, but it's a business, so therefore it's a small business.
Yeah, the U.S. government has its own definition. For example, if you're a contractor, they have a quota for only small businesses, and I believe your company wouldn't qualify for that quota, for example. Right. Although you call yourself a small business, it tends to vary. But I especially like to treat small businesses by the quantity of employees. Because the more employees you have, then you need physical space. You need an infrastructure, some technology that people are going to be using to communicate. So that really changed the game a lot. Now, my clients usually work for large companies. So I do have experience with large companies as well, because even from small to medium size clients that I have, they all work for large companies.
Right. I work with some of the largest companies in the world, and one specifically, and I know even the smallest conversations are extraordinary, right? So it's a challenge. I much prefer that small and medium-sized business talking with the decision makers directly and pushing things through quickly. But
lots
each their
of
own.
Acres when the companies are large, and lots of processes to make a simple decision, as simple as should we have one meeting a week or 2 meetings a week.
I know that we've put for I've got one client right now, and it's a big client, one of the largest companies in the world, and we're talking about their password complexity for one of their systems, and we have over 100 hours of meeting time and on that one topic of changing the password complexity problem on one of their mail systems. So working with the big businesses is challenging. It's got its own set of challenges.
Yeah. So my company is usually hired when, for example, you have a challenge like that and you can't figure it out. And then, who should we hire to consult for us and help us deal with the challenge? So I get all sorts of challenges. I highly base on science, especially something called cognitive ergonomics. So especially when you have a problem that, is hard to solve, I have techniques that I use from complexity theories and stuff. And as a production engineer, I apply that into, how do we organize this work? How's the budget? How's the time frame? So the mindset of production is usually what I bring to my clients and to their clients. Let's based on the data, let's see what the human beings need to experience, and let's match in a way that is cost effective and timely as.
Absolutely. And if somebody did want to work with you, how would they find you? How would they get in contact?
I usually get a lot of contacts from social media. I am like Gary V. My phone number is everywhere. My email address is everywhere. So usually if you contact me at my company website, rizhoma.com, I do have a direct contact that I offer from there. I do offer direct access to my calendar. So it's pretty easy. And I have a process also, since I work with so many different industries and client sizes. I do have a system that is very simple for diagnosing what the scope of the contract would be and how it would be. And I work with it with the type of service that can match with different types of budgets. So I can, as a production engineer, I can basically enter any type of project in any type of department because everything is production.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And we'll throw all those URLs and contact information on the bottom of the screen on this part for you as well. Now, I'm all about helping people get started in their business and more so overcoming their own mindset, because I think that people are their biggest enemy when it comes to going out on a limb and trying new things. What would you tell a young woman, either in a foreign country or an American woman, either way, that has an idea and she wants to start her business, but she just doesn't have the courage to get started? What advice would you give that woman today?
I don't believe that women are able not to be courageous to start with. I think it's impossible, because being a woman in our society, you have to be courageous. Otherwise, you don't leave your home. I don't think it's lack of courage. I think it's lack of encouragement.
Okay.
That women lack. So the first advice I would give is value encouragement. Don't discuss about your idea. Don't ask for people's opinion if they're not a source of encouragement, especially in the beginning, because everything, everywhere is not telling that we can do something. Woman is treated even by the law as a disability, right? We bear children and then we need to get on a maternity leave because we're disabled, instead of being treated as, the ones that hold the future. So we need to have this awareness of the power that we have, and that is not yet structured as a power. It's structured as is not yet valued, and we need to look for encouragement in order to feel empowered to do the things that are going to be needed, which are more than what a male entrepreneur would need to do. So I would say a lot of efforts not to be naive, because if we're naive and we compare ourselves with the male success stories, we're going to feel discouraged very easily. We're going to think that we're not able enough. And especially if you have a family, if you have small kids, very easily, you think about your kid, you think about your future, and it's very easy to make decisions that are going away from your dreams.
Right.
Just because of your daily life. Then the second thing after encouragement is, I want to say self-forgiveness, but understanding that you're going to make mistakes.
Yes.
So one thing I didn't mention is that I am the daughter of two educators. And my mom, she's a math teacher. So I'm going to tell you that because you're a dropout, and especially college dropouts, they tend to think, why do we have to learn maths? And my mother, she moved from mathematics to education because she wanted to understand why people hate mathematics, because she loves it, right? She wanted to understand why people don't value mathematics. Why can't people, see mathematics everywhere? So she built her career, and what she found out was the same thing as successful college dropouts tend to say, is that the educational system is not empowering people with useful knowledge that they can apply to build their careers. but especially she summarized this in one thing, is the fact that we always think that succeeding in school, at least in schooling, is doing it right. Except that the learning process of the brain can only happen through conflict. So if you don't make mistakes, you don't learn. And especially for female entrepreneurs, I would say this is a very important thing to always remind yourself, is that you don't have many reference out there because the world is mainly led by men. So most of the success stories that you're going to see cannot apply to your life. You're going to make mistakes. You will. That's a fact. And many mistakes. Not one or two or 10, think hundreds. You're going to try many,
it's
many.
all building blocks.
Yeah. And that's how you're going to grow. So as many mistakes as you make, feel encouraged that you're getting there, because it's like a checkbox. Okay, this mistake I'm not going to make anymore.
Get the mistakes and learn from them and move on, right? Now, I can tell you from my experiences, I've got a son and a daughter, and my daughter takes a B very, very hard in school. Like, she doesn't want them. She wants all A pluses, and it's across the board. She's very, very concerned with her grades at school, even though her parents are not. And my son could care less. He could not even, all D's, all F's, incompletes. He does not care one single bit about his school grades. It does not bother him in the slightest. So I can definitely see some of those nuances between men and women, at least on the small little ecosystem of my home. I see it. But on the going back to the encouragement, and I'm going to say this for men and women, if you are surrounding yourself with negative people and people say, oh, you're going to fail, some people can find power in the I'll show you I'm not going to fail. But that's a rough road. And I would just say, get those people out of your life and find circles that you can play with of people that are positive and helping you grow your dream and your vision. It doesn't matter if your idea is not going to work or not. The fact that you're going to try it, you're going to learn so much going through the process of giving it a shot that you don't know what's going to come next. You don't know what opportunities you trying to do that thing that may or may not succeed, and nobody knows until you try. You're going to learn so much, and opportunities are going to come from it that you can't even imagine until you go down that path. So don't let the negative people stop you. And if you've got to be your own cheerleader in your head, sometimes that's what it takes.
Or sometimes, honestly, the experience I had in my life is that everything I've done that was most extraordinary, the closest people around me, the people I loved the most, didn't believe in me and thought that I was crazy and that's not possible. And I didn't hear them, and they felt encouraged when I succeeded. And they started believing in themselves better when I didn't hear them and went and did whatever, because I have this thing personally that if you gotta fail, just fail big. This pattern is that I want to change the world. Is it possible in a lifetime? I created something that I believe that in 20 years I can change the world. Doesn't work. If I fail trying to save the world. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. It's a good philosophy. Camila, thank you so much for your time today. I had a blast talking with you. Love your energy. Congratulations on everything that you've overcome and getting the visa and being here and crushing it. I can't wait to talk again. Is there anything else that you would like to leave the audience with before we go?
No, I want to thank you so much for having this program going on, and I think it's so important the way you scope it, because the hardest thing as an entrepreneur is really to accept that our story is not Instagram profile, and there's a lot of backstage, and I felt this way here, like I'm disclosing all of the things that you can't see if you go on my profile. And
Right.
I think that's awesome, because that's what people need to feel that it's achievable. It's
Yes. And at the end of the day, I mean, we spent an hour together, and I feel like we barely scratched the surface on what the story really is behind all of it. And then, I think it's really important for people out there that are sitting there and they have an idea and they thinking about how to move forward, and it's just take a step and then the next step and the next step. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's going, and getting a domain name or starting an LLC or whatever it is, just start taking steps. Go to your local. There's probably a local incubator in your area or a co-working space or something, right? If you want to try to do something, you got to try it. You just got to get out there and start putting in the effort to do it, and get off Netflix, get off Hulu, whatever it is. And I promise you, it's more rewarding than watching another episode of The Middle, right? Which is fun,
I
but
don't know what that is.
it's just a TV show, yeah. But yeah, you have to do it, and you'll be way rewarded for it if you do try. So awesome, thank you, Camila. That's all I have for today.
And I wish you all that are watching this to lots of success. Please reach out if you have any questions. I'm extremely reachable, and I love to meet new people. I have no agenda.
Awesome.
Let's meet each other and do our best here.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
Thank you too.
All right, bye-bye.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.